After giving birth, my husband's family showed up with suitcases and announced, "We'll be staying here to help you raise the baby." When I protested, his mother laughed, "We're family, you can't say no." Smiling, I nodded, and the next morning, they woke up to a legal notice that left them screaming. I was exhausted. 20 hours of labor. 20 hours of screaming, sweating, crying, and feeling like my body was being ripped in half. And now, finally, I was home with my newborn son, Oliver. I should have been resting. I should have been soaking in the quiet, the peace, the first few days of my baby's life. But no. Because the doorbell rang. I was on the couch, half asleep, barely functioning. Mark, my husband, was in the kitchen making tea. He didn't even glance up. "Can you get that, babe?" he called. I groaned and pushed myself up. Every step hurt. My body was wrecked. I was still bleeding, still healing, and now I had to answer the door like a hostess at a dinner party. I shuffled over, unlocked it, and opened it. Standing on my doorstep, beaming, was my mother-in-law, Jean. Next to her, my father-in-law, Robert. And behind them, Mark's younger sister, Ava. With suitcases. Big ones. Jean let out a little squeal and pushed her way in before I could react. "Oh, sweetheart. We're here." I blinked. "Here for what?" Jean set down her bag and smiled like I had asked a stupid question. "To help. You just had a baby. We figured you'd need all hands on deck." Robert strolled in like he owned the place, whistling. "Long drive," he muttered, dropping his suitcase in the middle of my living room. "What's for dinner?" Ava yawned dramatically, dragging her suitcase past me. "Which room am I staying in?" I stood there, gripping the door handle so hard my fingers ached. What is this?" I turned to Mark, who had finally wandered in, sipping his tea like it was just another Tuesday. Jean laughed and patted my shoulder. "Sweetie, don't be silly. You just gave birth. You can't handle everything alone. We'll be staying here for a while to help you out." I stared at Mark, waiting for him to tell them no. To stand up for me. To say, "Mom, Dad, Ava, you can't just show up unannounced with luggage like you're moving in." But he didn't. He scratched the back of his head and gave me an awkward smile. "They just want to help, babe." "Help. Right." I forced a smile. "Of course. Your family. Make yourselves comfortable." Jean beamed. "See? I knew you'd understand." I turned and walked to the nursery, gently closing the door behind me. I picked up Oliver, held him against my chest, and whispered, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's got this." I didn't sleep that night. Jean barged into the nursery every single time Oliver cried. The first time, it was just after midnight. I had barely dozed off when his little wails filled the room. I got up, wincing from the pain, and reached for him, only for Jean to swoop in, snatching him up like I wasn't even there. "You're picking him up too fast," she scolded. "You'll spoil him." I gritted my teeth. "He's a newborn." She ignored me and rocked him dramatically, whispering some nonsense about how babies needed to self-soothe. The second time, it was 2 a.m. I had just changed his diaper when she strolled in again. "Oh, honey," she sighed, watching me swaddle him. "You're doing it all wrong." She unwrapped him and reswaddled him like I was some kind of idiot. The third time, it was 4 a.m. I was breastfeeding, half asleep, when she walked in, shook her head, and actually tried to adjust how I was holding my own baby. "Jean," I said, my voice dangerously low. "Go to bed." She patted my shoulder and smiled. "I'm just trying to help." Help. That word again. By morning, I was dead on my feet. I walked into the kitchen and found Robert sprawled on my couch in his underwear, watching the news like he lived here. Jean was making coffee. Ava was sitting at my dining table, scrolling through her phone. Not one of them acknowledged me. Not one of them thanked me for letting them crash in my house. Not one of them asked how I was doing. And that's when it hit me. They weren't here to help. They were here to move in. I grabbed my phone and walked outside, dialing the only person I knew who would understand. Lily. My best friend. My lawyer. She picked up on the first ring. "You sound dead inside," she said by way of greeting. "My in-laws showed up with suitcases," I whispered. "They said they're staying here to help me adjust." Silence. Then, "Oh, hell no." "Yep." She exhaled sharply. "House is in your name, right?" "Yeah." Lease? Yep. Perfect, she said. Check your email in an hour. I went back inside, smiling. That day was a nightmare. Jean criticized everything I did. Ava turned the guest room into her personal hangout, blasting music on her laptop. Robert took a nap in my bed. My actual bed. He just waltzed in, climbed under my blankets, and snored for 3 hours. And Mark? Mark did nothing. Nothing. By evening, Jean made a special announcement at dinner. We've decided, she said, cutting into the steak I cooked, because of course I still had to make dinner, that we'll be staying until Oliver is at least 3 months old. Maybe longer. I nodded. Smiled. Said, of course, Jean. Your family. She beamed. And the next morning, they woke up to a legal notice. Jean screamed. It was 7 a.m. I had just put Oliver down after a long night when a blood-curdling shriek came from the living room. I didn't even flinch. I took my time, stretched, and walked out to find Jean gripping the eviction notice like it was a death sentence. She whirled on me. What the hell is this? I yawned. A legal notice. You have 48 hours to leave. Robert sat there, blinking at the paper, his face turning red. You're evicting us? Ava rubbed her eyes, scrolling through her phone. Is this even real? Jean shook the paper at me like that would somehow erase it. You can't do this. We're family. There it was again. That word. I crossed my arms. Jean, you didn't ask to move in. You invaded my house. You've been treating me like I'm some clueless child when I just gave birth. You don't respect my space. You don't respect me. I want you out. Her face twisted in rage. Mark, she shrieked. Say something. Mark, standing in the corner, looked half asleep. He was still in his sweatpants, rubbing his face. I waited. This was it. The moment he could step up, proved to me that he was my partner, that he saw what they were doing. He took a deep breath. Mom, maybe you guys should leave. Jean's mouth dropped open. Excuse me? Mark shifted uncomfortably. I mean, it's her house. And, we did just have a baby. She needs space. Jean turned red. She needs us. She needs rest, Mark muttered. And you keep barging into the nursery. Jean's eyes narrowed. I raised you. And this is how you treat me? I could practically see the guilt washing over him. I knew Jean. Knew how she worked. She didn't argue, she manipulated. She made herself the victim until everyone bent over backward to make her feel better. Mark was faltering. I spoke before he could. You have 48 hours, I said coldly. Or I call the sheriff. Jean opened her mouth, then snapped it shut. She knew I wasn't bluffing. And for the first time, she had nothing to say. They stormed off. I could hear Jean and Robert whisper yelling in the guest room while Ava sat on the couch, looking pissed. I went back to my room and locked the door. 2 hours later, Mark came in, looking miserable. Mom's really upset, he mumbled, sitting on the bed. I said nothing. She feels like you don't appreciate her, he tried again. Like she's being discarded. I laughed. Not a happy laugh. Not a funny laugh. A laugh that said, are you seriously saying this to me right now? Mark, I said slowly. Your mother showed up with luggage and announced she was moving in. She hijacked my house, ignored every boundary, and acted like I was a bad mother in my own home. And now she feels discarded? He rubbed his temples. I just don't want things to get ugly. I stared at him. They already are ugly. He sighed. Maybe we can compromise? Compromise what? I snapped. My house? My recovery? My right to raise my own baby without your mother breathing down my neck? She just wants to help, stop, I cut him off. If you say that word one more time, I swear to God, we glared at each other. And then, the yelling started. I don't even remember everything we said. I was too angry. Too hurt. All I know is that by the end of it, Mark grabbed his pillow, muttered, I need some air, and left. He didn't come back that night. I woke up to Ava banging on my door the next morning. Mom wants to talk to you, she shouted. I ignored her. She's calling a family meeting. I rolled my eyes. Of course she is. I got up, changed, and walked into the living room, where Jean sat stiffly on the couch, holding a cup of tea like she was the Queen of England. Robert sat beside her, arms crossed. Ava sat with her legs tucked under her, scrolling on her phone. Mark stood near the window, looking uncomfortable. Jean took a deep breath, then smiled. It was the fakest smile I'd ever seen. I think we got off on the wrong foot, she said sweetly. I sat down, crossing my legs. Do we need to go over the part where you trespassed into my home, insulted my parenting, and refused to leave? Her smile twitched. We thought we were welcome. I raised an eyebrow. Did I invite you? Silence. Exactly, I said. So what's this meeting about? Jean sighed dramatically. Mark and I talked. She glanced at him. And we think it would be best if we all worked together to find a solution. I scoffed. A solution? The solution is you leave. Jean shook her head. That's not an option. I blinked. Excuse me? Robert cleared his throat. Legally, yes, you can kick us out, he admitted. But that would cause a lot of problems. I narrowed my eyes. What kind of problems? Jean set her cup down. Mark would be put in a very difficult position. Family isn't something you can just throw away. Oh. Oh, I see now. This wasn't just about staying. This was a threat. Ava smirked. Jean leaned forward, clasping her hands. We can make this easy, dear. We stay. We help. You don't have to do this alone. And Mark? She gave him a pointed look. You won't have to choose sides. Mark shifted uncomfortably. Mom, this isn't of course it is, Jean said smoothly. A marriage is about compromise, isn't it? And that's when I knew. She was trying to manipulate him against me. But she made a mistake. She thought I was weak. She thought I would fold. She thought I would let her win. I smiled. A slow, sharp, knowing smile. And I said, okay, Jean. You want to play this game? Let's play. Jean smiled like she had already won. Like I was some weak, exhausted new mother who would bend to her will if she applied just the right amount of pressure. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. This woman thought she was playing chess, but I was about to flip the whole damn board. I leaned forward, mirroring her pose. All right, Jean. Let's make this interesting. You want to help, right? Her eyes glowed with triumph. Of course, dear. We only want what's best for you and the baby. Perfect. I smiled sweetly. Then let's put it to the test. We'll see just how helpful you really are. Jean faltered for half a second. What do you mean? I stood up, stretching. Well, since you're so eager to lighten my load, I made a list. I pulled a notepad from the kitchen counter and slapped it onto the table in front of her. Jean blinked. A list? A to-do list. I beamed. Laundry, deep cleaning, groceries, meal prep, night feedings, oh, and I have a ton of postpartum care needs that require attention. Since you insist on staying, you can take care of all of it. Jean's face dropped. Well, and don't forget Ava, I interrupted. She's been sleeping in. Must be nice. But if she wants to stay here rent-free, she can take over all the diaper changes and bottle washing. Ava sat up. What the hell? I ignored her and turned to Robert. And you. Robert's mouth was full of toast. He froze mid-chew. You like lounging on my couch all day, right? I smiled. So you can handle all the yard work and house maintenance. Our fence needs repairing. The garage is a mess. The gutters need cleaning. You'll love it. Robert swallowed. Jean stared at me, horrified. You expect us to do chores? I feigned confusion. But you said you wanted to help, Jean. What did you think that meant? Sitting around, drinking tea, and bossing me around while I did all the work? Ava groaned. This is so unfair. Robert muttered something under his breath. Jean was fuming. Mark, bless him, was barely holding back a grin. Well? I asked sweetly. Are you helping or leaving? Jean's jaw clenched. She looked at the list like it personally insulted her. Finally, she grabbed the notepad and stood up. Fine, she spat. If this is what it takes to prove that we care, then we'll do it. Ava gaped at her. Mom, not now, Jean snapped. I hid my smirk. She thought she was calling my bluff. She had no idea that I was dead serious. It was beautiful. Jean started off strong, trying to show me up. She folded laundry aggressively, muttering under her breath. Ava changed one diaper and dry-heaved so hard she almost threw up. Robert attempted to fix the fence, hit his thumb with a hammer, and declared that he needed a 3-hour break. By lunchtime, Jean was dripping sweat, Ava was glued to her phone, and Robert was nowhere to be found. I sat back, sipping my tea, enjoying the show. By day 2, Jean had enough. I found her in the laundry room, staring blankly at the washing machine, looking defeated. She turned to me, breathless. I don't understand how you do this every day. I smiled. Because I have to, Jean. That's the difference. You came here thinking you were in charge. That you could treat my home like a vacation. That I needed you. But you? You're already breaking. She swallowed hard. I leaned in. You don't help people by taking over and making them feel small. You help by respecting their space, their choices, their boundaries. Something you've never done. She stared at me. For the first time, she looked unsure. That night, Mark came into our room, looking nervous. I was rocking Oliver to sleep. I barely glanced at him. I need to tell you something, he said. I sighed. If this is another speech about how your mother means well, I don't want to hear it. It's not that. Something in his tone made me pause. I turned to him. What is it? He hesitated. Mark. He ran a hand through his hair. Jean called a lawyer today. My stomach dropped. What? He exhaled. She wants to fight for grandparents' rights. I went ice cold. Jean. That bitch. She wasn't just trying to stay. She was trying to take my baby. Jean called a lawyer. To fight for grandparents' rights. I went ice cold. I was no longer just dealing with an overbearing mother-in-law who refused to leave my house. She was trying to stake a legal claim on my child. Mark had the nerve to look guilty. She said it's just a precaution, he mumbled. I stared at him. A precaution? He shifted. She's worried that you'll cut her off, because she invaded my home and treated me like an incompetent mother? I snapped. Because she's been undermining me since the second Oliver was born? Because she thinks she gets a say in how I raise my child? Mark flinched. I don't think she actually wants custody. She just wants control, I cut him off. And you knew about this, didn't you? Mark's silence told me everything I needed to know. Oh, this was deeper than I thought. I stepped back, gripping the dresser to keep myself steady. How long have you known? I asked, my voice eerily calm. He swallowed. A few days. A few days. My own husband had known his mother was considering legal action against me, and he hadn't said a word. I felt sick. You let me sit across from her at dinner, I whispered. You let me smile at her, let me think I was still in control, when the whole time, she was plotting against me. Mark scrubbed his face. She swore she wouldn't actually go through with it. She just wanted options. I laughed. A harsh, humorless sound. You let her, I said. You let her get away with this. Just like you always do. I didn't think she'd, of course you didn't. I shook my head. Because you never think, Mark. You never stand up to her. I took a shaky breath. But I will. And then, I walked out. Jean was in the kitchen, sipping her tea like she hadn't just threatened my entire world. Ava was texting. Robert was pretending to read a newspaper. They all looked up when I entered. I didn't bother with pleasantries. So, Jean, I said, voice like ice. When were you planning to tell me that you hired a lawyer? Silence. Jean blinked. Excuse me? Don't play dumb, I snapped. Mark told me everything. You're looking into grandparents' rights. Jean set her tea down with a soft clink. Now, dear, don't dear me, I hissed. You're trying to take my baby. She sighed, like I was being difficult. You're being dramatic. I would never take Oliver away from you. Then why the hell did you talk to a lawyer? Jean folded her hands. Because I was concerned. You've been so hostile lately, and I needed to make sure I'd still be able to see my grandson. I stared at her. Hostile? She nodded primly. You've been pushing us away since the second we got here. Because you moved into my house without asking. Jean waved a dismissive hand. We're family. That's what family does. Ava scoffed. This is so extra. Robert grunted in agreement. I turned to Mark. Say something. He opened his mouth, then closed it. And that was it. The moment I knew for sure that my marriage was over. Mark was never going to stand up for me. He was never going to pick me. So I made a decision. I inhaled sharply, then smiled. Okay, I said. You want legal involvement? Let's go all in. Jean frowned. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone. I mean, I'm calling my lawyer. She stiffened. That's not necessary. Oh, but it is, I said sweetly. Because I'll be filing a restraining order. Jean's face drained of color. Ava gasped. Robert dropped his newspaper. Don't be ridiculous, Jean snapped. Oh, I'm dead serious, I said. You've overstepped for the last time. You're a threat to me and my child. And Mark? I turned to him. You need to decide right now whose side you're on. His mouth opened and closed. He looked at Jean, then at me. And I knew. I knew he was never going to choose me. I nodded slowly. Understood. Then I turned, walked into the bedroom, and started packing. I left that night. I packed up Oliver, grabbed the essentials, and called Lily, who told me I could stay with her. Mark didn't try to stop me. Jean ranted about how I was tearing the family apart. Ava rolled her eyes. Robert said nothing. I ignored all of them. I walked out the door, strapped Oliver into his car seat, and drove away without looking back. I filed for divorce a week later. I got sole custody. And Jean? She tried to push her grandparents' rights case. But she lost. Because the judge saw what I had seen all along, she wasn't a concerned grandmother. She was a control freak who didn't know when to stop. Mark tried to reach out months later. Said he regretted everything. I never responded. Some betrayals can't be undone. And some people don't deserve second chances.